Hey guys, Technomentary here with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 11 Pro with the iPhone 8. As you can see in my hand here, we're going to do a head-to-head comparison between these phones. Everything that you need to know from a software, hardware, and overall performance between these phones, and whether you should upgrade from iPhone 8 to iPhone 11 Pro, or whether if you're looking to buy iPhone 8, if you should go with the iPhone 8 or go with the iPhone 11 Pro. All of that stuff in this video. We're going to break it down. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are looking to buy a discounted iPhone or the newer models and such, make sure you guys check out the link in the description where we're including the discounted link to those iPhones out there on the internet. So let's go ahead and get started with today's video. As you can see, both of the phones we have upgraded to iOS 14, which is the most latest updated major release that you can get on these phones, and both of the phones are able to update to iOS 14. And as you see here, we have all these app widgets, all of that we're going to talk more about. But before we do all of that, we're going to first compare this one's body between these two phones. As you can see here, both of the phones come in these sort of boxes. The 11 Pro here looks like it has a bigger box than the iPhone 8, slightly bigger, but what does that matter? Let's go ahead and break it down for you guys in terms of the actual physical size of these phones. As you can see here, both of the phones side by side almost looks the same size, but the iPhone 11 Pro is actually a little bit bigger, weighs a little bit more. It's around 6 ounce, a little bit around 6.5, where the iPhone 8 is around 5.5-ish. Those are just average weight. So just to give you guys a comparison, the 11 Pro does feel a little bit heavier in terms of the body itself, because there's a lot more going on with the 11 Pro. Other noticeable things that you'll notice is sort of this body on the back. Both of them does have back glass here. The Apple logo here on the iPhone 11 Pro is in the mid, which Apple has started to do with the newer phones, where in the past the Apple logo would be more towards the top. And then as you can see with the 11 Pro, there's no more writing. In the past of previous generation phones, Apple would have that printed logo of iPhone on it, and this is a special edition. As you can see, is a product red edition of it. And then of course the other big difference is in terms of camera, which we'll talk about a little bit more later in the video. You have your triple 12 megapixel camera versus that one single camera on it. Pretty noticeable differences. And if we hold it side by side and you take a look at the other pieces on these phones, you have all the buttons. The bezel on the iPhone 11 Pro does look a little bit thicker. They're both rounded bezels, and if you take a look at the top here, even on this side, as you can see where the SIM card goes on these phones, about the same here. There's looks like the SIM card tray on the 11 Pro is more lower and more mid versus the iPhone 8, which is a little bit more above, but those are noticeable difference. As you can see, both of them does have these stereo grade speakers on the bottom. The 8 looks like it has a little bit more compared to the 11 Pro, so that's other thing to take a look at. And of course, you know, these phones come in multiple colors. As you can see here, I have product red and the space gray edition of the phone. You can actually get the iPhone 11 Pro in this new special color known as midnight green, which we don't have here. But other than that, most of the other colors, like the silver one, can be found in both of these, and your gold one, and of course the space gray one. Of course on the iPhone 8 it's more black in terms of the shade of the color between it. So those are the breakdown between these two phones. The other piece to really notice about this phone is this other chip that's inside of it. So the iPhone 11 Pro, which was released in 2019 of September, it's a 2-year older phone than the iPhone 8 here we have, which was released in September of 2017. So true generation of chip changes. The iPhone 11 Pro does have an updated A13 Bionic chip versus the iPhone 8 only has an A11 Bionic chip. And the other thing we want to talk about is the battery size of this phone. Of course, with a bigger phone like the iPhone 11 Pro, you have a bigger battery, and that means more life in it. So you get around 18 hours of video playback on the iPhone 11 Pro compared to only 13 hours of video playback. So that's a big indicator in terms to give you guys a perspective in terms of the battery life between these phones. Most likely with the iPhone 11 Pro, if you're a little light to medium user, you'll pretty much go throughout the whole day. With the iPhone 8, you might make it 3/4 of the day, depending on what sort of user you are. Maybe if you're a very light user, you'll go throughout the whole day. But if you're more towards the medium to more heavier user, where you use a lot of the apps throughout your day, the iPhone 8 might need a charge in between those cycles. So that's the breakdown of that battery life between these two phones. The other thing, of course, that's noticeable physically is the iPhone 8 here has that iconic home button, which was removed from starting with the iPhone 10 lineup, where you have the whole body frame, and Apple starts using Face ID to unlock your phone, which the Face ID isn't available on the iPhone 8 because of its home button. So you have Touch ID to unlock your phone. And if we talk a little bit more in terms of the notches, you can see there's no notch here. Full body versus that size of screen. So the other thing you want to notice in terms of hardware is that the iPhone 8, both of these iPhones actually start at a base model of 64 gig, hence the price point. Where if you look at the iPhone 8, it's right now in 2021, you can get that around $449. Where the iPhone 11 Pro, if you're looking for a new, it's quite up there. It's around the $1,000 mark. That's the base pricing that you can buy right now directly if you're buying it from Apple's site. But if you're going to get a discounted phone, check out the link that we put in the description section that might actually help you save a couple $100 on a new 11 Pro, or if you're buying a used one, you can save a little bit more out of it. The other thing about this storage size about this two phones is that they do go up to two different capacities. The mid-grade on the iPhone 11 goes up to 256 gig, and at the top of the lineup, you're able to go up to 512 gig. And the top lineup for the iPhone 8 only goes up to 256 gig. So the medium grade is about the top of storage that you can get on the 8. So 256 maxed out on the 8 versus only that is being the mid grade of the phone. Let's talk about the display. We mentioned that both of them does have these bright displays, but the iPhone 11 Pro has a 5.8 all-screen OLED display. That's Super Retina XDR display. It's what Apple mentions for the technical people out there. And the iPhone 8 here is a 4.7. It's a widescreen LCD display with IPS technology. So it's still that LCD display, not that OLED. What that makes the iPhone 11 Pro so expensive is that OLED technology. Apple claims that really does cost a lot for their production lineup. Hence why the phone starts at that $1,000 mark. And if we talk about the resolution of these phones, of course, you're paying a lot more. You have that OLED technology. The iPhone 11 Pro has a 2436 by 1150 pixel resolution at a 458 ppi versus the iPhone 8, which only has 1334 by 750 pixel resolution at 326 ppi. And the other factor you want to talk about is that contrast ratio, which the iPhone 11 Pro has a almost 2 million to 1 ratio, and the iPhone 8 has 1400 to 1 ratio. So super big contrast ratio. If you do a lot of photography or looking at images up close, you might notice that difference. Both of them display does have True Tone display technology, which allows you for the phone to automatically adjust to the ambient lighting out there. And the other thing to talk about is that max brightness in it. So the iPhone 11 Pro goes up to 1200 brightness nit versus the iPhone 8, which goes up to 625. So that's the breakdown of the display. We really want to talk about the display because, as you can see, that's probably a big factor between both of these phones. And let's talk about the other factor about water resistibility and the dust resistibility. So both of the phones are water. So the iPhone 11 Pro does have 4 meters up to 30 minutes per 30 minutes, and the iPhone 8 only has 1 meter at 30 meters. So at 30 minutes. So between these two phones, if you're looking to take it for a dive, they are water resistant, but wouldn't be pushing it with any kind of phones. If you have a crack or any sort of break or damage, especially with these phones, because they do have that back glass which allows them to do wireless charging. This back glass is easily crackable if you drop the phone and aren't protected or don't have a sturdy case on it, and any sort of crack could pretty much compromise that water resistibility between these two phones. Although they are pretty durable phones, you still need a case to protect them from any sort of damage that can possibly happen between these two phones. And let's now talk about the camera of this phone, probably the most exciting part, because Apple is just known for its this quality of camera that they produce. As you see here, of course, physically, triple megapixel camera versus 1 megapixel camera, that means a lot. What that really means is that you're able to get extra ultra wide angles on the iPhone 11 Pro versus the iPhone 8 that's only able to do your wide camera mode. So that's the other thing. Other thing you notice is that with the 11 Pro, it does have night mode, which isn't available, and the deep fusion, which aren't available on the iPhone 8. As you hear, if we go ahead and take a look at the camera here, we will notice a lot of things between these cameras that's a big difference. So if you're buying purely a phone for its camera, the 11 does pack quite a lot to it. One noticeable thing is that you'll see here there's a portrait mode that's available with a lot of customization on the iPhone 11 Pro, but that portrait mode is unfortunately not available on the iPhone. And the portrait mode definitely allows you to really enhance your experience in terms of all these settings that you get, as you see here, as you're going through sort of stage lighting, contour lighting, all of this extra lighting, and that also allows you to go ahead and get into different angles as well with all of that settings. The zoom level on these phones, you have up to 4 optical versus there's not much optical on the iPhone 8. So you're going to notice that. Let's talk a little bit about the actual video on these phones. So how much video recording capabilities does this phone have? If we go into the settings of both of these phones, right, for the camera, you'll notice one thing here between these camera settings is that they start at 720 and they both go up to 4K. So as you see here, both of them does go up to 4K. The one thing you'll notice on the iPhone 11 Pro is that it has this quick take option, which allows you to record at 1080p at 30 frames per second. It's that ability whenever you are on the camera. So if you're on the camera and you're looking to take a picture, so if you're looking to take a picture and you slide that over, you can start recording. See, that's a cool feature, but that feature unfortunately is not available on the iPhone 8. That's a feature that Apple has introduced, so you're not able to do that. When you press it down, it just takes a lot of picture of that going on. So between these phones, the other aspect we want to talk about is the software of it. That's really important because these phones are both upgraded to the latest iOS 14 update, as we mentioned here. But what's going to happen between these updates is, and sometime sooner or later, the iPhone 8 might get the iOS 15 update, but after that, maybe 16 if your Apple is really pushing it. And it's going to come to an end of getting updates. For the iPhone 8, it was released in 2019 with iOS 13. There's going to be at least another 3 to 4 major updates that will happen for the 11 Pro. So if you're looking for a phone between these and looking at the price point and a phone that you want to pretty much have for at least another 4 to 5 years, the iPhone 11 Pro might be something you want to invest in if it's an investment that you're making. Where the iPhone 8, it will come to end of life pretty soon. In the next year or two, we see not getting any update. But what does that really mean? So when an iPhone stops getting the update, it means apps stop working. You're gonna get that sluggish feel. sort of that iOS starting to slow down. But luckily on iOS 14, both of these are pretty optimized. You're able to do all of the stuff you need to. So if you're looking for both of the phones to do social media, there's not anything noticeable between these phones. You're able to do social media. Both of these phones does a phenomenal job. All of your popular apps for social media are gonna work, no issues there. If you're looking to use it for video streaming such as Netflix, both of the phones does that phenomenal job. Of course, the screen is different. As you can see, there's sort of the speed difference between these phones. When we open up an app, the iPhone 8 does come a little bit clutch in terms of how fast it's able to open up that thing. So you're gonna notice that's something that just happens when the chips are updated. As you remember, we said the iPhone 11 does have a 13 chip versus the iPhone 8, which has the 11. So 2 generations step up in terms of the chip technology, what makes the iPhone 11 Pro slightly faster. We wouldn't say such a huge difference that you notice a lot, but in terms of if you're looking to do multitasking or heavy gaming, you're going to notice the difference as well in terms of chip. The iPhone 11 Pro does come in pretty clutch when you're doing a lot of heavy gaming. Of course, if you're doing it for light gaming, smaller games that you play on a phone, you're not going to notice much difference. They do pretty much the same thing when it comes to gaming. There's not much to say in terms of light gaming. But when you're getting into heavy racing games or even PUBG games that are really heavy intensive on the actual hardware of the phone, the iPhone 11 Pro is something that you might want to consider getting. So there you guys have it for our review of these phones. These phones are phenomenal devices. As we mentioned here, if you're looking for a phone, upgraded camera, more battery life, and then that overall more experience and a longer life cycle, you might want to go with upgrading to an iPhone 11 Pro if you already have the 8. But if you're looking for a cheaper option, want to get into the iPhone field or switching to iPhone, or you're looking to get it from a younger kid or someone that's a first-time user to buy an iPhone and still have that full app portability, stability, you might want to go with the 8. So budget phone versus a phone that will last you long is kind of our overall conclusion of it. The iPhone does do what it's supposed to do, basic calling and texting between these phones. Nothing really noticeable there. Both of the phones are pretty much great phones that will do pretty much the same amount in terms of it. So hopefully this video is helpful. If this video is helpful, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And we want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 11 Pro? What do you guys prefer? Leave a comment in the comment section. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.